Hi everyone, I'm Cherl Koehn. I'm the founder and president of Arthritis Consumer Experts. I'm a person living with rheumatoid arthritis and could not be happier to be in the C Arthritis broadcast booth here at the Canadian Arthritis Rheumatology Association meeting and Allied Health Professions meeting with Ms. Janet Yale, who is the president and CEO of the Arthritis Society. The Society has been a part of my life for almost 30 years now, as a volunteer, as a donor, as someone who's benefited from the research that the Society has conducted since its founding. Was founded here actually in British Columbia. So it's really lovely to be here with you, Janet, today, and we really look forward to our chat.
Well,
so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. So our first question out of the gate is this. The Arthritis Society, I think, has had a renaissance, and that's how I view it. And
I love that word.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you've worked on your logo and website and the offerings that you deliver to people with arthritis. And I know it's so much, I know exercises like that, having undertaken them ourselves, it's way more than just the veneer. So tell us, we really want to know what's in the gut, what's the stuff that drove that whole project?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And we have gone through what I would say is almost a 2-year journey, starting with what's on the minds of people with arthritis. Yeah. Recognizing there are all different kinds of arthritis. We did a lot of consumer research, both surveys and in-person interviews, focus groups, to really understand at its core, what is on the minds of people with arthritis, and how do we think about representing that in our visual identity and our value proposition, so that people, when they look at that, can hopefully see the message we're trying to deliver. And then we married that with a view that in order to deliver impact for people with arthritis, we had to challenge ourselves to be relevant. So when Mary Pack founded us in 1948, the model that she put in place was really innovative at the time, peer support for people living with disease. But it didn't leverage technology. Technology didn't exist back then. So how do we reimagine ourselves as if Mary Pack were starting today, and try and be as innovative and relevant and impactful as she was when she started the Arthritis Society in 1948. So the new image is much more focused on the word arthritis than on Arthritis Society. And we've changed the bird from the bluebird that everybody thinks of as the Twitter bird, even though we were there first, to something that is much more captures the notion of flight and the notion of freedom from the disease, but it's also those crossfire wings are meant to capture the notion that we're there to support you, and that you can sort of almost rest on that sense of support that comes from those wings lifting up in flight, and that notion of freedom from the burden of disease. It was a really, really important concept for us.
Well, I think it's really important that that work was driven by people with arthritis. I mean, how else do you find your way through the dark, really, in a visioning exercise, if not really based on the words and the feelings and the thoughts of people living with the disease, which I, for one, am very grateful for. In terms of what you do daily, then, what do you think the Society is doing today? Obviously, many things much differently than in 1948. But when you kind of close your eyes at night and try to get some sleep before you show up the next day for work, what do you think, like, what satisfies you, Janet? Like, what is it about the mission, the vision that you're doing today? What is it that most excites you?
Well, I have to say that the core of what we learned from those consumers was that arthritis is a devastating disease. And that word devastating isn't one we use lightly, but it's in our vision statement right now. It's to free people from the devastating effects that arthritis has on lives, which is very personal for me through my husband's own experience with devastating osteoarthritis in both his shoulders. And really starting to understand that we have to help the world at large see how serious a disease this is, because at the end of the day, it is a serious disease, and it isn't taken as seriously as it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so that is the fundamental insight that is driven by another concept, which that we learned from people over and over again, is that arthritis takes from you the image of the life you knew before you got the disease, your dreams, your aspirations, the things you might have thought possible in your life, and then you have to reimagine a life, because it is often a lifelong condition with disease. And we've really brought that insight to create greater clarity of purpose in all aspects of our mission, research, advocacy, and solutions, and really trying to press on those issues of having arthritis taken really seriously as a disease that deserves, like your organization, our help and support.
Yeah, you know, it's something we hear from our members, so the grassroots, every day. They talk about how invisible they are. They talk about how their experience is being compared to someone else's and discounted. And I know myself, as a person living with rheumatoid arthritis now almost 30 years, how almost shamed I felt of myself that I was looking to take that seat on the bus that was supposed to be reserved for an elderly or a woman carrying a child. And I had to kind of give myself permission. And the work you're talking about is that support that almost we need to kind of say, okay, it's okay to say that's devastating. It's okay to have all of these challenges in our life, and then to turn it around and look forward. I love that. Like, for me, that really resonates. I was a high-performance athlete, and that was taken from me.
Of course.
In toto, in 1 month, I went from, this hotshot athlete to wheelchair-bound, and lost myself for a long time. So I'm thrilled to hear about this. I don't want to see reinvigoration, but renaissance. It's really just a great rebirth.
Well, I think we really, we all sort of had different ways of expressing that.
Yeah.
But really, really trying to get it crisply enough defined that if I say it, you get it immediately, right?
Yeah.
And it's moving emotionally, right? Because it is something that has to be taken seriously, and we're going to do our part to help fix that.
How do you, organizationally speaking, take that thread and pull it? This is a challenging question. You know what I'm going to ask. How do you take that thread and pull it all the way through everything you do, right out to the street, to the impact that you can have on individual lives?
It's a great question, because one of the things we've really challenged ourselves through our old model of programming, we knew that we touch people deeply through our in-person. But if there are 6 million Canadians with arthritis, which there are, we can't reach them one at a time. We had to really think about leveraging technology as a way to expand our reach, and to recognize that based on age and stage, we want to be relevant to whatever question you have on whatever topic at whatever time, wherever you happen to live. And to do that...
so you're aiming low then, right?
Really low. But that really means for us that our history was focused on disease management, recognizing signs and symptoms, getting to a doctor, early diagnosis, getting on the right treatment, and that's all important. But in addition to that, people have rest of life questions, and we hadn't been as focused on that. So really, I think the insights we've learned around our value proposition has also informed really starting to add lifestyle content to everything we do, because people have rest of life questions, not just nutrition, diet, exercise, intimacy, pregnancy, travel. It's how do I deal with everything that other than what the doctor talks to me about? And so we've built a whole new section of the website called Flourish, which is how do we help you flourish with your disease, that is really about making it real.
It's such an important point you raise, actually, this work that you've done, that whole section of the website, because as a patient, we're, I don't know, probably somebody's got a calculator at home and can do this math. I'm not going to try to do it in my head. But you spend, 15, 20 minutes in the rheumatology office after you're an established patient, maybe, 4 times a year. And the rest of the time is outside the doors of the clinic. And sometimes that's a hard message to give to your care team.
Of course.
We love, I love what you're doing for me in here, but holy smokes, you should see the firestorms I'm walking through outside the doors. So building out that piece of your vision, of your mission, I think is a really important thing. And I know the things that you're doing marry well with the things that we're doing in our own organization and our sister organizations. So congratulations. All of that to say
it's very
congratulations.
exciting. Baby steps. Tons more work to do,
yeah.
But I think that core guiding principle,
yeah,
I think will serve us well.
Well done. You don't need me to say it, but
no,
I'm actually really happy to say it. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about your time here at this meeting, this meeting in particular, and the relationship that the Arthritis Society has with the Canadian Rheumatology Association. There's always a give-get proposition in these things called partnership, and I wonder what it is you think you bring to the CRA and what you feel the CRA brings to you. Like, what's that relationship like, and why is it important to you?
Well, if you think back to our foundation, it was Mary Pack and a rheumatologist who sort of got us started, and so historic origins really were on the side of inflammatory rheumatoid arthritis, right, as opposed to the other kinds of arthritis, which today are the majority of people with arthritis on osteo. But we recognize that our historic origins really lie with the rheumatologists who day in and day out deal with these people and deliver extraordinary care. So we have partnered with the Canadian Rheumatology Association for a very long time. And in fact, most of the rheumatologists who also do research got foundational grants at the very start of their careers from the Arthritis Society. That's been a big priority in our research granting program for a very long time. So I think they all feel a debt of gratitude to the Arthritis Society for helping get launched in their careers. Yeah. And in turn, we really recognize them as important partners in the patient journey and really try to make sure that we work collaboratively together and get their insights on what more we can do in terms of our patient tools and resources that can help people live well with their disease. Yeah, there for so many in this country, I would argue, for anyone who can get a rheumatologist, get in and see them when they need to see them, they're like heroes. They really have heroes, and it's the time of the Olympics. We're running this hashtag Arthritis Olympians campaign, and we keep pinning, winning medals on our rheumatology folks who have Twitter handles in the community. So thanks for that. I couldn't agree more. We have a different kind of relationship with the association in that their members do, obviously, as they do for you, vet our materials and do all of those things. I know they're doing really well and for a long time with the society. Past presidents have chaired your scientific and medical advisory committee, your medical advisory committee. They're very present in the work that you're doing. And we certainly, everything that is on our website, I should add, is evidence-informed best practice. Yeah. And so they contribute huge amounts of their time to vet our materials and make sure that it is best practice. They volunteer to be speakers at lots of our events at the community level, for sure. They're incredible partners. Yeah. Turning our conversation to something I know that's near and dear to your heart and to all of our hearts, actually, that are providing leadership in the community, and that's the Arthritis Alliance of Canada. You've been the fearless chair of the Alliance for, I think, 2 terms now. You've seen, I think, a lot of progress happen at that very large, what I call community table. And I'd like for you to maybe reflect on the time you've spent as chair and what you feel you've seen change in community and the developments that the Alliance has made, and where you think we still have challenges, perhaps. Well, thank you. It's been a privilege to serve as chair of the Alliance board, and I was really happy to be so welcomed into the larger arthritis community when I first arrived at the Arthritis Society and joined the board. And we have really focused our efforts in collaboration, centered on the patient experience, and starting to understand at a practical level, how can we improve the models of care? I think I'm proudest of the work we've done in inflammatory and osteoarthritis models of care, where we've really collaborated from an end-to-end perspective and looking at what is a best practice model of care. How do we articulate that in a way that can then be used to identify gaps in care province to province and form the basis of advocacy efforts for improvement, recognizing it's got to be patient-centered, it's got to be interprofessional, and it has to include shared services and support post-diagnosis. So I think those are all things we know as patient advocates from the get-go, but what's been really interesting is seeing the community come together around those principles and say, all right, well, let's do our best both to articulate it and advocate for it.
Which is not easy to do, actually, when you think about trying to describe to the person on the street what a model of care is. It's a difficult proposition, but I think the Alliance has done that really well within its own sort of stakeholder group. And I know the Society, ACE, and others have tried through our own outreach to go to the grassroots and explain sort of what that is. And I liken it to just, okay, it's what happens to me when I get a diagnosis, even pre-diagnosis. What do I know about arthritis in general out in the community? And then how do I float down the river? You know, if the river is a model of care, you know, where are the twists and turns? Where are the snags? Where's the nice calm water? Where are the white rapids?
Exactly.
How do I navigate through that model of care with great care? You know, the care that comes around me, and how am I powered to be the center? How do I learn to actually live my life really well with a disease that is still incurable? And I think that's the great work. I agree with you. I think that's the really good work of the Alliance. It's that the sort of jewel in the crown that shines the brightest, or is the most well cut and polished. When you think about looking forward, what more do we have to do? I mean, I know there's a lot. I know that's a gaping hole I've just thrown you through, but
I think we are, as many organizations at the Alliance table, resource constrained.
Yeah.
And so while we as volunteers, with the support we have from the Alliance mighty small person team of 2 people, able to do a lot of work collaboratively, getting that word out about the work we do, both to other stakeholders and to governments, and using that to drive change is really hard because of the limited resources we have. So I really feel that where we're challenged is having more than a small group of people know the great work we do and having that gain traction and momentum back to this is a serious disease. It deserves more attention from policymakers and opinion leaders and governments. And so how do we turn that great work into actionable change?
Yeah, I think I would agree. That's kind of the next step. And I hope to think that, you know, the close to 6 million people that have the disease want to get involved in that mission. That it's happened in cancer, it happened in HIV, it's happened in diabetes, it's happened in mental health. And we need people to speak out. I want to give a shout out to Spencer O'Brien, who's on our Canadian Olympic snowboarding team and living with rheumatoid arthritis, and being so vocal about it at the Olympic Games has been, I think, it's just so fabulous for our entire arthritis community that someone is out there and willing to open their mouth and say, this is horrible. I overcame it, and here's how I went about doing that with the help of a great care team. But I think, Janet, we get there from here with the army of voices and people living with the disease. It's up to all of us, actually, to help push the mission and vision of the society, to become involved in the grassroots, to talk to their elected official. I mean, I'm really hoping that's what happens, and and I know it's not going to happen overnight, but how it grows organically out in our community.
I couldn't agree more. I think really activating people and making them feel that they have the power to join the army that can drive change, I think will be very powerful. And we have some provincial elections coming up this year, and
arthritis can vote. That's right.
Indeed, and I'd like to see if we can figure out how to activate the arthritis community in the context of the provincial elections this year, and that's something I'm sort of really focused on.
I love to hear that. So you've got.
Absolutely.
We're throwing our hat in the ring on that as well. We'd love to work together on that. I can't thank you enough for coming in and chatting with us. Janet, we know you're busy. It's a crazy meeting, everybody pulling you in probably 20 different directions. But I wonder if Anita, our producer, has any questions for us from our audience.
There is one question from the audience.
Yeah?
They were wondering how you disseminate all these useful information to less populated communities, so communities that are kind of suburban or outside the main communities.
Well, that's a great question, and I think one of the reasons we've decided to really leverage technology is to reduce the reliance on in-person programming that required people to come to our offices to get information, and to really build out the resources that we have available to people. And to the extent they don't know those resources exist, we recognize that we have to reach out to the people that people with arthritis might turn to. So their family doctor, chiropractor, nutritionist, exercise instructor, and pharmacist for sure. How do we make sure that they know, whether it's ACE's resources or the Arthritis Society resources? We have a wealth of resources, and I think it's a great question, and making sure that the health professional community knows that what we do and the resources we have, so that people in turn can come to us. Obviously, we're not going to be able to afford big advertising campaigns to promote the fact that we have these resources, so we have to rely on others to get the word out.
Facebook has 2.13 billion monthly users. So what I'd like to do is turn that question on our questioner and encourage them to post, to like, to favorite, to spread the word via some of these incredible technology tools that we're using in this interview booth. It's a great way, rural remote, to connect. And we hear that a lot from our members who also visit, your Facebook page, our Facebook page, our Twitter accounts, who say, geez, if it weren't for the technology, if it weren't for social media, I would be lost, way out here in my small town in Canada. And so we really encourage our viewing audience to reach out to people, to post to their own Facebook timeline, to their Twitter feed, and give them the resources or contacts available for the Society, obviously for the others that are involved in the C Arthritis event here at the Canadian Rheumatology Association and Allied Health Professions Association meeting. Power of technology, kids.
Indeed.